My family, there's nobody ever who's suffered from this disease. And so I was actually quite confident that the biopsy report is going to be absolutely fine. But I was very shocked, that it was positive. And as all, I mean, patients know that, the moment this diagnosis comes, then there are just tears, tears, and tears all over the place. And everybody gets panicky, and, you don't know what is going to happen to you and all. But having said that, I think we should be very, very, swift in our action, look for a good oncologist, and then have faith in, the person, because it's a long journey. So once it starts, it's easily like 5 to 6 months or even a year. So it's very important to develop a rapport with your doctor and have faith in their ability and leave the rest to God. Faith and medicine works wonders for this.
Amongst women in particular, breast cancer is one of the leading causes of cancer. So 1 in every 3 women with cancer will have actually breast cancer. And today, in this very special episode of Heart Life Rhythm with Dr. Gem, we have Mrs. Anita Nanda, who's going to be sharing a very personal experience of her journey throughout cancer with us. Mrs. Nanda, welcome, a very warm welcome to this podcast today, and we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gem. It's wonderful to be here and to be able to share my experiences with you.
Yes. So I'm going to dive straight in.
Sure.
When did you first find out that you had cancer? How did it present?
Well, I found out in 2017.
Okay.
It was not found very easily. And I must caution everybody that that's generally the case with cancer, because the way it presents itself is not very clear. So you do tend to, be waylaid by the symptoms that are presented. So in my case, I used to get rashes on the skin and also on the breast. So it was not very clear to all the doctors that I went, to dermatologists, gynecologists, or GPs, or, even, I mean, I would talk to any doctor that even I came across, then I would mention this, and they would not be able to associate with cancer kind of a thing, straight away. So it's not a simple diagnosis, I should say. And I guess that's the reason many times, people are not diagnosed till the stage 4.
Yeah,
But I was lucky enough to be caught, a little before stage 1, but it should have been a little earlier if I was, in better hands, I guess.
Yeah. And in your case, what kind of symptoms did you have?
So like I said, I just had rashes all over my stomach and upper body, basically, and also on the left breast. And there was a oozing from the nipple, actually. So, which was sometimes like a pus or a little with blood or something, but it all got associated with the rest of the rash. So it was not diagnosed that early.
Okay, so it was a bit of a confusing picture.
Absolutely.
To start with. And just to caution our audience, since we're talking about the very important topic today, so other things to look out for, as I'm sure you know, would be, so redness, as you said, any lumps or bumps or swellings that wasn't there previously, any discomfort or pain, oozing or bleeding even sometimes, as was your case in terms of oozing. And then finally, what we call the peau d'orange, which is, so there's the breast skin, the skin surrounding the breast actually starts looking a little bit rugged, a little bit like an orange peel. Hence the French word peau d'orange. So these are the red flags to look out for.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Not at all, but yeah, exactly what you said is the way that people should look at it. And I would say that, whenever you have something which is recurring and which is not going away, in spite of all the treatments that you've taken, I don't think it's a very bad idea to go to an oncologist straight away just to get it ruled out. Because if you don't have, it's great. But if you have anything, coming up like that, it'll be caught at a very early stage. And as they say, cancer is always treatable when it's caught at the first primary stage. So I think now, because cancer is so widespread, everybody should have that in mind and immediately, contact an oncologist, no harm there.
So then when you met the oncologist, what kind of test did you have?
No, actually, I was in Mauritius, and I went from doctor to doctor for about a year. And I used to get some relief with all the medicines I was taking and the rash ointments and everything. But it wasn't going away as such. It was going on coming back. So a friend suggested another doctor this time. I mean, just as a casual approach, I went to this guy who is a surgeon. So he said, I'll just take out a tissue and let's do a biopsy.
Okay.
So actually, that's when he had to send it abroad to get the results. And when he got the results, that's the time we got to know that it's cancer actually. And then of course we got into swift action, and I flew to India, and there I saw a very very renowned oncologist, surgeon, Dr. Ramesh Tari. He took my case. And I mean, she took just 5 minutes to announce after the first examination that it was 100% cancer, and it was a Paget's disease, which I had actually, which is, I believe, is a rare thing.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that I mean, the moment it was caught, there was no time to be wasted, as she put it. So I straight away got into all the preliminary tests and stuff like that. And on the third day, without much thought, I was operated. So it was very fast, yeah, once it was diagnosed. And I think that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every second counts in cancer.
Yes.
Every second.
And also, you don't have the time to think and overthink and get the fear and all of that, because everything was moving very fast. So I think that was a blessing in disguise that it happened that way. Yes.
Did you have any warning bells in your inner mind, your inner conscience, playing, before all this? No.
No, because my family, there's nobody ever who's suffered from this disease. And so I was actually quite confident that the biopsy report is going to be absolutely fine. But I was very shocked, that it was positive. And as all patients know that, the moment this diagnosis comes, then there are just tears and tears all over the place. And everybody gets panicky, and, you don't know what is going to happen to you and all. But having said that, I think we should be very, very, swift in our action, look for a good oncologist, and then have faith in, the person, because it's a long journey. So once it starts, it's easily like 5 to 6 months or even a year. So it's very important to develop a rapport with your doctor and have faith in their ability and leave the rest to God. Faith and medicine works wonders for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have any risk factors for cancer? Did you? So you said in your family there was nothing.
No.
Your diet, I suppose, no smoking, no alcohol, nothing to say.
No, none of those pointers were there at all, because they very simplified ways to say, okay, you were a smoker, so you got it, or you were a couch potato, so you got it. Nothing of that sort. Everything was fine. And but as they say, that if you have that tendency, everybody has that tendency, but given the right the change or whatever in the body immunity system, it can develop for anyone actually. I'm not sure. I mean, you may be knowing better that I believe it's only 10% inherited, and the rest is probably from the environment.
Yeah. A lot to do with, some genetic components. It depends on what type of breast cancer as well, what kind of genes are involved as well. So there's a lot of that. And then there's lifestyle factors, environmental factors, and then perhaps also other factors that medicine science hasn't found out yet.
Yes, and I would all say, of course, that stress is something that really triggers it. And so I guess we all should take care of that aspect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So then could you perhaps talk us through a little bit, the process? I know surgery happened very quickly. Yes. So you had a full mastectomy.
Yes.
How long was the surgery?
I guess it took about 4 hours. And at that time also, they also prepare you for a reconstruction surgery if you want. So because they have to prepare the ground, as they call it.
Yes.
So they asked me for that as well. And since I was at the age that, it didn't matter much. And then already this was one shock, and then I didn't want another surgery. So after discussing with my husband, we just said no to that. And I was also told that I can, of course, make up my mind at any time later on in life also. Okay. And it can be done. But the step one could have been done with the same time when they were removed.
Okay.
But I didn't opt for it. But for, I think, youngsters who are getting it these days, it is a good option to consider. Yes.
Okay. And they can do both in one procedure.
Not
Or they
the
can
full
get
reconstruction,
started.
but they prepare the base as they call it. Yes.
Okay, amazing. And once the surgery was done, what what was your experience of that recovery after?
So the recovery is about 6 weeks after the surgery, because there is that seroma which comes out after every surgery, and the drains are put in place, and then you have to keep going to the doctor every week to get that cleaned and all of that. And then what normally happens is that they send the tissues which they have taken out for fish test, which they call it, and which takes about a few weeks, I think, to come out with the result. And for me, what happened was they discovered that there was some hormonal imbalance. So like I was ER positive, ER negative. So for that reason, then they had to tell me that, we have to give you Herceptin.
Yes.
But Herceptin is a preventive, basically, which has to be given for 1 year. But it cannot be administered without giving chemotherapy. So like, I had to undergo 6 cycles of chemo then, which were given to me at an interval of 3 weeks. And then, of course, with chemo, it's very, very, a very tough journey, I should say, because the side effects are pretty traumatic. And of course, you lose your hair, and, there are many things actually. The body goes through a lot of shock, and it takes time to recover from the side effects. They are very, very severe. But nowadays, medicine, is so advanced that they would give you all antidotes before the chemo. Actually, we're starting the chemotherapy and all of that. So it does take care to a great extent. But all the same, the body does suffer during those 6 cycles in a major way, I should
In
say.
a major way. I guess you're also at risk of infections, but you were okay. You didn't have any infection.
No, in fact, there is a lot of antibiotics and all that they give us. And also, they are very particular about the food and the exercise at that point, so that we don't develop any secondary infections. Because each secondary infection or anything that you get would delay the chemo. And I believe they have only 1 week window, to give the next, so that the cycle continues. So it's like 3 weeks. So the first week you're going through the side effects. Second week you're recovering from them. And then the third week, as they call it, is the golden week, when you're absolutely fine, all your new cells are developed, and you're a new person again. So that's the time you can take it a little easy, and you can probably eat what you like, and your mouth sores and everything has settled down by then, and you can go out a little. Otherwise, you have to be very careful in the first 2 weeks. Have a sanitized atmosphere around you. I mean, we used to clean the room, like, with the chlorine and everything, at least twice, morning and evening. Food was always taken fresh. Like they said, no packaged food, no even fruits with thin peels and all that. No thin skinned fruits were allowed.
Why is that?
Just to prevent infection, because so many chemicals are these days put in that, and also dust and everything. You really can't take it off even by washing 5 times. So it's better not to consume them during your recovery period. And like bananas are allowed, and pomegranate is very, very good. Coconut water, takes all the toxins very well. So must have as a daily intake. So these kind of things, were very, very important at that time. And only fresh cooked food, no kept food in the fridge. Fridge was like a big no-no at that time. So all this, I think, really helped me, because by God's grace, I did not have to delay any chemo, and everything went as per schedule.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned hair loss, and we all know for women, of course for men also, but women are very, it's a part of them. How
It's a serious drama, actually, Jem, for this whole journey. That is one thing, because it goes in a minute, but then it takes a full year to come back. But that is very hard to come to terms with. And but I would say that nowadays, such beautiful wigs are available, and of course the scarves are there. When it's very hot, you can't really wear wigs, which is a very hot thing which I've discovered. Because the scalp is all covered and it's not easy to carry. But again, you should have your confidence. My doctor always gave me a lot of confidence, and she would pull out my scarf and say, "You can go around like this. What's wrong? I mean, you look so pretty just without your hair. It's a new look and all that. So just carry yourself with confidence, and just it's a part of a journey. You're already like halfway through. Doesn't matter now. They'll start coming, and just take care of yourself." So yeah, she used to ask me to oil it every day so that the scalp gets stimulated and the hair comes out faster and things like that. So I had a very encouraging atmosphere around me, which I would say is very essential when anybody is going through this treatment. I mean, I would say build a circle of friends and relatives around you who will encourage you and not pull you down. There are many people who would say, "Oh, it's your karma or it's your crap." Yes, very like pregnancy, like everybody has something to say and give you advice. Cancer is just like that. Everybody has something to say to you, and most of the times it's quite discouraging. So do not listen to such people. Just carry on with just discard those friends for some time. Just have a circle of people who are uplifting your spirits and who are with you in this and make you smile and laugh and make your good hormones kick in, rather than anybody who tries to pull you down. That's very, very important through this.
Okay. That's a key message, I think.
Absolutely.
But the stronger you are here,
Yes.
everything else will fall into.
I think everything depends on that, how positive you are through your treatment. Because it is more than the disease. I think at that stage, it is the treatment which is very tough. So if you have people around you who are just, encouraging you and are with you in this journey, it makes a lot of difference.
And it also sounds that like you had a very optimistic doctor as well.
Oh, absolutely. I was blessed. I had a wonderful, actually, she's pretty experienced and old now.
How old is she?
I think when I was her patient, she was 72 already.
Wow, and operating everything.
Yeah. She's a surgeon and she was operating, and so she was very motherly. She would hold my hand and she would say, "See, now we have already done this. We have first chemo is over. You took it so well. I'm so proud of you." And just these many side effects you got. That's wonderful. With second, it'll be even better. Even if it was not better, like I would feel good that that Dr. Serene is happy with me, that I'm doing well. So like it was more of a trying to be better for her, so that she could say that, "Well done, very good, you're taking it very well," like that. So yeah, she was very encouraging, and my medical oncologist, because they work as a team,
Yes.
who was looking after all the medication and everything. So Dr. Singhal, he was a young, accomplished doctor, and he was also very kind and very understanding, and he was always available, because if anything cropped up, because those days either there's acute constipation or there is loose motions. I mean, the gut really goes polycystics and you suffer like crazy. I mean, the constipation pain is much, much more than labor pain. It's so difficult, But they were there all the time. Like we would just WhatsApp them and they would answer, do this, do that, or like they were, there for us, and we knew that we were in safe hands and also always in contact with them. So we never felt alone that way. So that was a very, very good and supportive thing I got.
Team and so family,
Yep.
friends, neighbors, medical people, surgical people, the imaging people, the people administrating radio or chemotherapy, the nurses, all of that. I think you were well taken care of in a big team.
Yes.
It's all about the team spirit also.
Yes, and it's very, very important that you just take it in that spirit.
Yeah.
That you are being well looked after.
Yes.
And you just keep up your spirits. You just hang in there.
Yeah.
It's a tunnel that you have to cross. It's very dark, but there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So just, keep going and have faith in your God. I mean, ultimately, all comes together when you have the universe with you.
Yeah. Did at any one point did you ask yourself why you? Because that's sometimes a reaction that patients have: healthy lifestyle, no past medical history, no genetic or family history either, and then they start asking themselves, God, why me?
Yeah, yeah. But then again, like I said, my doctor was so positive all the time, and she always encouraged me to think positive. So, in fact, she said at the very beginning that don't get into this negative spiral because it can only pull you down, and that's not going to help for recovery. We want you in a very positive state of mind. And so, like watch comedy, watch, light movies, do whatever pleases you. Don't start thinking about anything. And one thing which she just banned for me those days was the internet. She says, no Google, you're not going to read about your disease at all because there are 1,001 things that can happen. But maybe they don't happen to you. But if you have it in your mind, surely it's going to come. So believe me, maybe I'm the only patient who never, went and read about what could happen or what were the repercussions of my chemo. Nothing. I just did not go to Google during that period at all. And I think it helped me a lot to keep my peace. Yes. I mean, I can say I surrendered to my doctors because I felt safe with them.
Yes.
And I felt that, yeah, they will see me through
Yes.
this. That's all. And of course, my God was always with me.
Well, I think a lot of it really depends on the rapport, the relationship you build, that trust, as you said. You had full trust
In my doctor.
in the doctors, in the system, in the technology, and then the rest, obviously. Also, you had your part to play in terms of eating properly, sleeping properly, not getting too much stress.
Yeah.
And
Yes, actually, I used to sleep a lot during that time because I think the medication also makes you sleep, and then anyway you're weakened and all that. So, and that used to help, I guess, because deep sleep. I mean, I used to be, people around me used to say, Liz, like, it literally was as though you're in, in coma or what. Because I was always like, especially the first 2 or 3 days after the chemo.
Okay.
Yeah, was like, 17 hours sleep or something like that. They have to literally shake me and wake me up for my meals and all that. So, but I guess that sleeping part is good because it helps you to just come out of the whole thing much easier, in an easier manner.
Yeah. So then from the time of your first diagnosis till the time of, the end of chemotherapy, how long did that take?
Oh, it's a long procedure, yeah. So after exactly 6 weeks of the surgery, the first chemo started. And so since it was a 3 weekly cycle, so yeah, we took 4 months. And after that, Herceptin carried on for another 6 months because it's a 1 year therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of your follow-up
Yes.
to check, so what we call surveillance in medicine, what kind of scans did you need or do you still need?
Well, I was told to, for the first year, the checkup was after 6 months. And when everything was fine and all was okay, I was told to do it regularly, annually.
Annual.
So mammogram, ultrasound, all of that is done. And the blood tests, all the blood tests, and DEXA scan for the bones is done once in 2 years. And I was asked to continue for 5 years, after which they said, if because I believe the recurrence mostly happens within the first 3 years or 5 years. After that, they said, you're as good as a person on the street, fresh and new again. So, but the test should continue for as long as you can, because it's always helpful to have that annual checkup.
Yeah.
And, for your mental peace also, it's better to just know that all is going well. Yeah.
Excellent. And for people who just found out that they have breast cancer and who are about to start this long journey, are you aware of any new treatment out there that maybe you might have heard from friends?
Oh, yes. I think every year things are changing and becoming better and better. Because, back in the day, whenever a cancer was pronounced as your diagnosis, I mean, you were finished. Yes. At least 90% people did end up dying, But now the situation is pretty good, and, the medication and everything is improving. The science has developed so much, and they are constantly finding new ways to combat this thing and all that. So I think every year is a better year than the previous one, and the patients are doing much better. They're going through a lesser, I think, trauma also with the medicines, like the way we went through. It's a little better now because they have better ways to combat, and the antidotes are better, and even like people are not losing hair anymore because of this cold caps which have come out. So cold cap, which while the chemo is being administered, this cold cap is kept on your head. The hair cells do not die, so the people don't lose their hair. If they take care of their hair with this cold cap. And so there are many other things, and then now immunotherapy has come out.
Yes.
There is stem cell therapy. There are many other new ways to combat this disease. And of course, in Indian system, there is Ayurvedic also, which helps with the nutrition that you can have probably. And there are many leaves and herbs which they say also affects the will. But of course, your main line of treatment should always be allopathy. But along with that, if you want to try other things, that's completely up to you.
Anything that could help
Absolutely.
with emergence.
Yes.
And you mentioned, so you went off completely for a long period, or perhaps even now, processed foods, frozen foods. Is there anything else your doctor told you to
So sugar.
avoid?
The very first thing I was told was that sugar is a real no-no now because the cancer cells feed on sugar. So I was asked to just cut it out from my life completely. And now, of course, we find that everybody is asked not to consume sugar because it is pretty harmful for all kinds of diseases. So yes, sugar was one. And secondly, just to have a healthy lifestyle, yoga and exercise was recommended, and which I would actually, I can't emphasize enough that soon after the surgery, everybody must start their exercise after the third day because, inevitably the nodes are taken out, after which lymph nodes are taken out, after which, there is a stiffness in the muscles, which we don't realize in the heat of the moment, but later on you suffer the whole life with that
swelling
stiffness,
also, yeah.
and the swelling comes, and the lymphatic drainage is affected. So exercise of that particular side is very, very, very important, and I think you must find a good physiotherapist who's an expert in lymphatic drainage and continue with it throughout your life. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what's keeping me going. It's very important. And here in Mauritius, at least, we have Link to Life, and we have Breast Care Center, which are very, very, wonderful NGOs who are doing a lot of work in this. And if you approach them, they can help you with this.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not just during or before, it's accompanying you. It's a lifetime.
No, it's for sure. It's a life-changing experience, and you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything you would tell your younger self, at the time of the diagnosis or before perhaps the diagnosis? Anything that you would change along that journey, looking back? Maybe there's nothing you would like to change.
Actually, I would love to change if I knew what happened.
Yes.
I've been asking doctors that, what brings it on? Okay? Is there something I could have done differently? Or maybe my sisters can, look after themselves better. Or is there... Fortunately, I don't have daughters, so it's okay. But, how does it happen is something that the doctors are still trying to crack.
Yes.
So they're saying there's no one thing that we can pinpoint. So as with everybody else, take care of your lifestyle, eat fresh, eat well, don't, stress too much, and just live a happy life. I would tell everybody post this that, just develop a hobby. Do something which you're passionate about so that your mind is, occupied with better things than stressful relations or your job or something. You have to find a panacea where, you are able to take your mind off the stresses of daily life. And I think that would really help in keeping it at a balance. Not only cancer, but any other disease also. So many people are dying of heart attacks.
Yes.
Youngsters are dying of heart attacks nowadays. Unfortunately, after COVID especially.
Yeah.
So it's only that, because of the stressful life. So as with any other disease, this also they say is just be more mindful of what you're doing what you're eating, and what you're putting in your, as they say, body and mind.
Yes.
So that's it. So meditation really helps in this,
Okay.
as does yoga and exercise.
You do yoga regularly?
I have to do it because of my, the post surgery, just to look after my arm.
Yeah.
If I don't do it for a week, my arm starts screaming for it.
Oh, really?
So I have to, that's become a lifestyle change for me. But earlier I used to do, I've always been doing yoga, but I wasn't that fanatic about it. But now my body cries for it. So I'm very regular.
Become part of your team.
My routine, it has to be right. And also they say that walking is very good because you move your hands and your whole body while walking. And that also helps the lymphatic drainage, So it's very, very important to, even if you don't do yoga for 2 days, it's okay, but at least walk. A brisk walk is very much recommended. And again, that also takes care of your stress. So half an hour walk is good enough, but go for it every day.
And I just wanted to ask you, as a cancer patient in that time, how did you feel, society or friends or people you knew in your circle were viewing you? Did anything change?
Yes, of course. That's the sad part, that this is one disease when you get everybody around you becomes very sympathetic to you, and you suddenly become a bichari, like she's got this. Oh my God. Because in our society, and also the whole thing was that once you got it, your days are numbered. So the whole family scenario becomes a very sad and a very depressing kind of a thing. There are very few people who can tell you that no, you're going to come out of this and nothing has happened. It's like any other disease and we just have to fight it out. So just stay positive and just go through this. So people do view it differently.
So we're reaching the end of this lovely podcast. Thank you for sharing so much with us of your personal time and personal journey. This is called Heart Life Rhythm for a reason. So from your heart, what would be one message you have to the doctors who had looked after you, and then one message to the newly diagnosed cancer patients out there, men and women?
So for me, you see, I would call it a 7-point something. I call it, the points that I want you all to keep in mind. As soon as you are diagnosed, I know you will panic. I know that there'll be a lot of crying, but there's no time to be wasted. So you immediately look for a good oncologist, which is going to be your friend from now onwards. So, and then once you have found a good oncologist, have your faith in the person. I mean, your doctor is going to lead you through this, and it's a long journey. So have faith in your doctor, stay with her or him, and go through all the motions of the treatment with full confidence. Have a positive mind. Take care of your food and your exercise. And most importantly, have a ring of friends and family uplifting. You really need to nurture your relationships always, because you never know when it's going to strike you. So it's good to be in, a friendly atmosphere. Friends who can, chip in when your family is not there, or the other way around. They will look after your diet, your mental health, your company, everything, So you will feel buoyant after being in a good social circle, and always be in a sanitized atmosphere so that there are no secondary infections, and, you just look after yourself well, be in a good mental health, and then trust the system, and you're sure to be out of it very soon.
Mrs. Nanda, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight to have you. Thank you so much for sharing all these Paramaruttam. The purpose of this podcast, as you know, is to help people in just simple terms, simple language, and then have people from all fields. So not just doctors on this field, from people from all over, and also patients to share their journey. So that's you can't put a price on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jim, for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences, and most importantly, to tell everybody that yes, you have been diagnosed with cancer, but it's not the end of the world. You just hang in there, trust your doctors, trust your God, and you just be positive and take the journey in a very, very combative way. And sure, like other challenges in life, you will get through this as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.